just checking out the crew here. All right, so has anyone noticed any significant changes in the market besides it snowing? Which agents are always so interested in the weather patterns? I couldn't come out and knock doors because it was too hot. Now I can't because it's too snowy and rainy and too cold. I'm always fascinated by that. But all right, so today I want to talk to you just a little bit about the market, what we're doing, and then number two, how we're going to respond to that stuff. If I go back in history, one of the things I appreciate, in fact, John Syatt said this yesterday, he was talking about just the beginnings, but I sat around a little conference room table. There's not one in here, but basically a small little round one. Nick may even remember that little red conference room table back over there where Amy Clark calls it Ghetto Everest, which is over on 1300 East. And we were sitting around this little conference room table and we were selling a bunch of real estate at the time, myself, Rob Oakey, and a handful of us. And as we were selling real estate, just to give you a perspective, sometimes people will see me in these environments and think, well, George doesn't really understand what's happening with the market and he hasn't sold real estate for a while. But I just want to point out that in 2008, between myself and our little tiny little team, we sold 115 homes. And I still will never forget sitting down with Leah Kruger, and I was at down at what is it, the Corner Bakery down there at Fashion Place Mall. Is that place still down there? Is that there? I don't know if it's still there or not. Anyway, and she sat down with me and she said, hey, were you aware? I said, aware of what? And she said, did you know that you're the #1 real estate agent in the state of Utah? And I said, no, I didn't. And just Rich, so you know, I mean, what agent would not know that they're the #1 agent in the state of Utah, right? And so in 08 and 09, I was the #1 agent in the state of Utah. And that was when I wasn't doing any short sales, bank-owned properties. And I had more home sales and I was ruthless out in the market and trying to annihilate anything I could get my hands on to try to do it. I'd keep an average of like 50 active listings. 1 out of every 10 homes was selling in the marketplace. It was the longest trough ever in the US history besides the Great Depression. So for all you history buffs, the Great Depression started in what year? 1929 and lasted, some of you, I said this earlier today, how long? 10 years. And what got us out? Was it FDR's policies and procedures? It was not. What was it? The war. So joking, I think our guys, our buddies at Inspiro said, well, so was it Adolf Hitler that then got us out of it? I know that sounds horrific to say, but who knows, right? But the point is that, you know, those were moments that were pretty rough, right? Back before it was the 1920s, and we say that's so long ago, it's over 100 years ago. And yet only 13 years ago was when the second longest recession / depression ever occurred. And yet the unique difference between what's happening now versus what happened in the past was that the actual recession / depression of 08 to 2012 was caused by what? It's the only time ever in its history it was caused by what? Someone said it. Lending. It's the only time in US history that the market was receded and recessed and was depressed because of what real estate was doing. Now, some of you were probably like 10 years old, maybe, when this was happening. And I'm saying that not out of disrespect, but you really have a concept. And the only thing I say is, remember that Kenzie years ago, 13 years ago, was when her dance teacher would complain about me not paying her dance bill on time because things were rough back in those moments for a minute. And I say that to you that, look, this is nothing different. And here's the unique thing is, this has nothing to do with what you're seeing within the market to doing with actual real estate. But when you start looking at this, you start realizing that the real estate market is always the first to be hit in order when you have to have a recession. And once you realize that, like you guys may be saying, what is the Fed Reserve doing? What is Jerome Powell, or Mr. I will call him Fed Powell, right? our buddy, right? Jeremy or Jerome? I can't remember. Is it Jerome? Isn't it Jerome? All right, I had it right. All right. But they're meeting even today. Today's the day they decide, hey, are we gonna, maybe you said this, I don't know, but our rate's gonna go up. Now, here's the thing, they won't announce that, they'll keep it in complete secrecy because of course there's always a political agenda in this country. And so they're not going to release that information probably until the 3rd week of November, but most likely the 1st week of December. But it's expected that they might raise it another 3 quarters. And the thing that you have to pay attention to, yes, and I think you were talking about the difference between the Fed and the bonds or the T-bill. I don't know what you're talking. Was that what you were talking about? Something like that?
Inflation.
Okay, all right. Sure, it was brilliant. Sure, it was amazing. Right? Of course, my son-in-law, man. Come on. It's amazing, Kelly. Was it earth-shattering?
It was.
Okay, right answer. Well done. All right. So is, you move through this process and you start saying, okay, what's the Fed going to do? And for the first time, I've seen a long time, sometimes you'll see a 0.25% change in the Fed rate and they'll move right over to the mortgage rates. But, pretty rare that 0.75% or 75 basis points switched over from the Fed rate right over to the lending. And that's what changed some things. Now, I've given some of you the answer. And how many of you think that maybe you're doing something wrong in this market and what's wrong with you? Because sometimes we sit on these islands, and there's a handful of you in here who have sat down with me over the last several weeks. And I can tell you think like, well, everyone else must be doing so well, but it's only me. Does anybody want to raise? Does anybody feel that way a little bit? Right. Well, and that's not, I have to look at these numbers I want to share with you, because if I don't look at them, then I go crazy inside thinking, well, now here's what I don't necessarily believe you're the problem, but I know for certain you're the solution for your own world personally. So when I talk about these things, people say, well, George, you're usually so positive. I said this earlier, if the plane's going down and all of us were there, I just want you to know I would be the only survivor. And I say that because I am that big of an optimist. I truly believe that. But I also know that if I don't call things as they are, not worse than they are, not better than they are, then I have a really, really difficult path along the way. So I want to go through a few numbers, but how many of you, just so you know, that we've purchased, and Sphero did, pushed by Jennifer, but I hope that you guys, you want to talk about a kickstart to your day and your life, come tomorrow and spend as much time in this room, literally for the next 3 days. There will be people in this room, I'm sure, till 1 in the morning. Is Unleash the Power Within with Tony Robbins. And tomorrow they say that, so I understand it, he's going to talk almost the entire day. So I hope that
everyone's welcome.
I just hope that you'll participate. It's not just watch and go, oh, that's cool. No, it's in this room going, yeah. That's what's going to happen here. Brandon, you want to come in and do that? Yeah, I know. We need to start burning that out there in the parking lot, right? And making fire walking happen, right? But I hope that you'll come. If you have not been to a Tony Robbins event, I went once, because I've been 11 times and it's still not enough. 11 times to this one event, twice a date with Destiny, 2 wealth masteries, business mastery. And what I've always appreciated from Tony has been his attitude of abundance, that no matter who and where you're coming from, in fact, take the T. Harv Ekers, take the Oprah Winfreys, all these people show up in his audiences, from authors to speakers to talk show hosts, and they all show up because he has no resistance to sharing and giving. And no matter what part of the world you live in, and no matter what you're trying to achieve, because he continues to grow, he wants you to continue to grow so that you can grow, you can all grow. And so what's so bizarre to me is there'll be professional speakers sitting in there. Like many of you know, like a Cole Lindsay, many of you know Nudia, many of you know T. Harv Eker, who wrote The Secrets of Millionaire. All these guys show up and sit there at UPW. So I hope that you get the fact that, the one thing I've loved about Tony is his abundant message that there is enough for everybody. And he's done that not only when he knows someone else is a speaker, come on in. The moment I said I might coach some people in our company, Mike Ferry said, you're done, and hung up on me. A whole different approach to life. And so I just would challenge you that, man, make sure you show up tomorrow and play full out. And play full out for the next 3 days and see what it just might shift within you. Because some of the things that need to happen when I see you the solution is it's really what's going on inside of here and here. And I was talking to Tyler about this. I said, look, the key here right now is what are you doing mentally and what are you doing emotionally? Because that will drive everything you do with your body and your actions and your execution. So you have to, if you want to make it, not only make it, but thrive through these moments. It is about controlling what you think. It is about elevating how you feel, and it is about how you execute. And we're going to get in some details of that. But I just want to point out just a couple of things. So I put up 75%, but I just want to give you perspective, but it's at least 75. And I had a conversation earlier, and I apologize for a few of you. You'll hear just a few stats here, but there'll be ones you haven't. But 75% of the lending industry has been let go. Now, what I mean by that, the employees, not the LOs, not the Dylans, not the Adams, not the, who else is in here? I'm not, there's, yes, you got two of you, Austin, and then Kelly, and is there anybody else I'm missing here? But we're talking about the employment side of this game. And so I just want to point out that that should be a little bit of an indication that just people say, oh my gosh, well, what's happening with Inspiro? Well, what's happening is on September 30th, I bought the other half of the company. What happened on September 30th is that on 30th, and during those 60 days, we decided we were going to convert it from a mortgage bank to a brokerage. And you may say, well, what's the difference? Maybe like, I don't really care. What was the big difference was the way in which the programs operate, the way in which the rates are being offered. And what I began to find out is that as good as we could ever be as a mortgage bank, we were anywhere from a half to a full percentage point above what anyone else was doing. And we had good rates, great rates. And that's the same everywhere else. And so the challenge is like, okay, how do we convert that? Was there some hiccups along the way? Was it frustrating for the Austins and the Kellys for a minute? Yes. Well, there might be a little bit of frustration here and there. Of course there's, because we changed the whole model. We changed the model so that we have the most competitive rates, but also so that we could do things like 3-2-1 buy downs. If you're going to your mortgage banker, you're not doing those. It's just that simple. You can't, they can't, because they don't have the ability to do it. Now they could take that and they say, hey, we'll broker that out. But the only way they're doing that is they're doing it through a broker, period. It's the only way they can do it, because you can't do it through mortgage banking. All right. So just like things like that, or your 5-1 arms, or your 7-1 arms, or your 3-1 arms, all these things are coming back. So look, it should be inexcusable right now in the lending world that if you are sitting there going, oh my gosh, the rates are high, then figure out another way. Get with an Austin, get with the Kelly, get with a Dylan, right? Get with a loan officer and sit there and go, how do I get people into a house now? How do I get it to where that payment is acceptable? And before you're sitting there reducing your listings, before you start reducing those listings where I'm seeing $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 reductions and $50,000 reductions, look, get serious about these 3-2-1 or 2-1 buy downs. And the reason you want to get serious is because that money in that reduction could pay for all that discounted interest, and all of a sudden they're there. And why they accept that, and they qualify them, by the way, on the 3% below. So if rates are, let's just say, round up to 7, that means they're qualifying at 4. And the next year it's 5, and the next year it's 6. And the reality is that if you're not paying attention to what's going on, well then look, everyone's reducing their homes right now. Officially, the market, so here's some other stats across the Wasatch Front, is down 5%. Well, before the next 5% reduction happens, go to the client and get them to pay for these costs. And here's the cool part. One, they should earn more money over the next 3 years. That's why the lenders accept it. And number two is that they're going to refinance in some point or another in that time frame. And the expected thing, and we will get into a little bit of this, but I just want to point out that in December, it's expected that rates will go anywhere up to 50 to 75 bips, or if some of you aren't familiar, that just means it's going to go up 0.75% in December. In February, they expect it to be anywhere. Goldman Sachs even just said 25 to 50 bips just 2 days ago is what they believe. And then they all believe that in March/April, they're going to drop to 6.5 to 7. And then by December of 2023, which I really strongly believe this, is that they'll be down into between 5.5 and 6.5. And people say, well, how do you know that? It's a simple deal. When the market is crashing in the stock market, I used to get so thinking, I can't put my brain around this, but you should be able to talk intelligently about this, guys. When the market is crashing, when we say the market, do you think most people are, when you say the market is crashing, you think they're thinking about real estate across the world? No, what are they thinking when you say the market's crashing? They're thinking about the stock market, okay? And from a standpoint of the stock market, the reality is the market from the start of the year is down 35%. However, weirdly, yesterday, doesn't even know how much it went up? 10%, strangely enough. And so everyone's like, whoa. Well, now remember, I said that the real estate market is the first to get touched when rates and programs are changing. So in our world, we're like, whoa, what are you doing? Why are you changing rates? Well, because if you take the other different economic sectors like technology, or you take manufacturing, or you take healthcare, or you take private equity and other types of businesses, as a general statement, the great hope is, right, that a Powell, the federal, right, head of the Federal Reserve, sees the fact that some of these things are happening, like the layoffs at Apple, the stopping the manufacturing of the new iPhone because no one's buying it. You know, the layoffs at Amazon, the layoffs at Snapchat, the layoffs at Microsoft. There's thousands of layoffs happening. And I sent the article, and some of you don't even know what I'm talking about. I appreciate it if you didn't, but you got to know, you got to pay attention. When I sent this same article to Gretchen Switter, CFO, and she goes, whoa. She's like, things must be really changing if OnlyFans is laying off 20% of those. Some of you don't even know what I'm talking about. I appreciate it. This room got it. I like where you're living your life. You're doing good. All right. But my point is that, like, look, stuff's changing. So look, the stock market, when it goes down, who knows the answer? When the stock market goes down, where do people put their money? Who said that? Bonds. Yes, right answer, right? So they put it into bonds. So when the market crashes, interestingly, in the stock market, is that good or bad traditionally, historically? Is that good or bad for interest rates on the mortgage aspect? Good. It's good. You should be going, yes, I want another Black Tuesday or whatever it is, right? I think it was a Tuesday back in 1929, right? I mean, the point is or Black, no, Black, no, it's a Black Friday. I don't, Black Friday's the sale stuff. I don't know, I'm getting all confused. It's Thanksgiving, it's coming up here soon, right? But the point is that you want this to go down. The problem is that why the Fed keeps messing with everything is, guess what? It's not going down enough. Now, the feeling right out there, if you is a little bit is, wait, we've made enough changes. Can you just give it a second to like let it kind of make its course when we've changed those rates? But when that money comes out of, when the stocks go down, people take it out. Like I have a number of friends that I've taken all my money out of the market. I go, well, where have you put it? Money markets, in the bonds, T-bills, and all of those things. And then the more money that goes into the bond market, the lower the rates go. So the expectation, why people say, well, why do you believe rates are going to, Michael asked me this earlier, that rates are going to do this? Well, first of all, some of the brightest minds, from the Goldman Sachs guys to the Wall Street Journal to Steve Forbes, this is what they think. I have to tend to agree with them. The key is this has got to happen. Now, Steve Forbes put something out 2 days ago. He said he believes that the Fed is overshot and they need to still give it a second. And he said, because they waited so long, and that's, if you've heard that, they waited so long to make these changes. Now they're in this panic to make these changes. And I don't want to get into the depth of the money that was printed and things, but there's all these different factors that have created all these moments. But just remember, you may be feeling the pain of this market, but remember, there's a really cool, if you are a fan of Milt Friedman, he's a guy that I would listen to. Another guy I'd listen to is Thomas Sowell. Sowell. These are extraordinary, some of the brightest minds. Thomas, for years, people wanted this guy to become president of the United States. He is an incredible economist / philosophy / political science. I mean, he is brilliant beyond measure. Milt Friedman has passed away, but Milt Friedman made a comment. In fact, I had a friend who just posted it. You may have seen it, but Milt Friedman said, hey, the inflation is a little bit like, hello, Miss Kim. Hello. I know I haven't called yet, but we'll talk after. Just so you know, I'm getting to it, I promise. But Milt talked about the fact that that when we print money, it's like inflation, meaning you got all that money, it's so great, but like an alcoholic, you get the great reward of that alcohol. He says the alcohol now, but there's always going to be a payoff later. And he said, and inflation is the payoff. If you got all that free money, there's going to be a cost to that, which is the inflation. And here's the great question. And it doesn't matter whether this is a confusing statement to someone. I'm not here to present a political position, but just for perspective, it was Donald Trump who gave you all the money. And yet Biden's being blamed for all the inflation. And is there things he could do better? I don't disagree. Maybe there is. But my point is that the inflation issues are not because of really anything Biden. It's because all the millions and billions of dollars that were given out, there has to become a day of reckoning for that money. And that's why inflation is raising. So don't be so freaked out that inflation occurred. It's just, that's the no. I've been waiting for this to happen. I'm not like shocked by it. The only thing I'm shocked by is another stat I'll give you, is just some of the speed in which things are happening. It's not that I'm shocked that it's happening, right? You shouldn't be shocked. You're given tons of money to the economy to keep it alive during COVID. And now here we are paying the price for that money that was given. And you have to ask yourself the question, would I have rather, just like a lot of people were saying, just let the markets do what the markets are going to do. Don't give anybody anything. Some people were for that. Some people were not. I can tell you, as a pretty sizable, large business owner, I was pretty grateful for those dollars. They employed people. They took care of people when times when there was literally no business for several months. So it was very, very important part of the deal. So, John?
Something I read was the money in the system after all the stimulus. The money prior to COVID was 1/3 of all is in the system. So if you have 2/3 new money, but not 2/3 more product, that means that everything should cost 3 times as much.
I've not heard that. That's an interesting perspective. Yeah.
And so now they're just by raising the interest rates, they're taking money out of the system.
Yep.
And so it's
just the natural stuff, right? It's what you, as I just want to say perspective, it's what should be happening. Again, it doesn't matter which president you do or don't like, what their policies are. It's just, this is the byproduct of what happens over these last few years. This is normal. Now, just again, stock market crashes, in simple words, the interest rates get better. But I just want to point out a few things when I say, hey, do you think that you're the problem? No, you're not the problem. You are the solution, though. In your own world, you're the solution. But I just want to give a few other stats. Organizationally in Utah, we represent, I mean, we're on about 1 out of every 4/5 transactions where we either represent the buyer or the seller. The footprint of this organization, we sell, give or take, 5,000 plus homes a year across the Wasatch Front, and of course parts in St. George. That's a lot of homes we personally represent, right? And where you guys are on the sides of those things. Well, for most of the year, and I'm just going to say here off, we were 18% off on sales in the company. You know, that was up until September 1st, or sorry, September 30th. But in October, just want you to give perspective of what 0.75%, right, or a 75 basis point increase on your interest rates and the rattling of the market, what it did. And that happened, by the way, that first major change where it really rattled the cages and people got a little uncertain and consumer confidence really radically dropped. That happened in September or the last weeks of September. Well, October went from, give you perspective, last year we closed 407 transactions in Utah. This year we closed in October 210. Did anybody feel that? I just want you to know I did. A lot. Okay. Now, of course, I said, what am I doing? Well, I'm doing what I feel like I've always done. But if you haven't realized, I'm, part of the excitement of the things that we've been able to do is, and we'll talk about this in a second. I'm going to talk more about it next week at the summit, but that's basically a 50% reduction. Well, of course, like everybody who loves to fact check me, because I'm, saying all sorts of things, they want to say, well, are you right or are you wrong? Well, yesterday I got a text that said the MLS, you guys can go look it up, but it's off by 54% on sales for the month of October. So I just want to point out that that's the stats, that's the facts. So write this down. And I said it a little earlier, but I just want to go through this for a moment. Write this down. I must not look at things worse than they are. I must not look at things worse than they are or better than they are. ... Not worse, not better, just as they are. I'm not here to tell you, oh my gosh, it's so much worse than that. No, that's what it is. And we have a tendency to bring all this emotion into what we're doing. And we start to say, well, no, it's worse. And all of a sudden you have an agenda and you try to make it worse than it is. No, that's just what it is. So get all the emotion out of the equation.
You mean Utah in general is off 54%, not our company, but all.
Salt Lake County specifically is off by 54% on home sales for October. So we were off 50. We're 4% better, which still doesn't make me feel that much better, but we're 4% better. Meaning MLS stats, go look them up, 54% from last year, same time for the month of October. A year ago, this same time, a year ago, 54% year over year. Make sense? Any confusion in that stat? Meaning it's half the home sales, not only in the county, let's just say for the company, but in general for everybody. Now, the question is that there's people in this business that are having some of the most prolific, amazing years of their life. And it's always the 80-20 rule. It's always the 80-20. And there's a lot of rules when 80-20. There's, I always say there's 80% of the people who are, right? There's 80% of the people who are not doing what they should be doing. 20% of them are doing what they should be doing. And so the challenge, like, with Isaac, my son being a fairly new real estate agent, I say to him, stop looking at all the people who aren't doing what they're supposed to be doing. Because there's only going to be about 20 of them that are, 20% of them that are. And I just want you to think about that. Who are you paying attention to? What I realized back in 2008 and 9 is that I started looking at the people who were failing and going, well, my gosh, if they can't make it, oh my gosh, well, then what can I do? And when I started putting my focus on the 20% of the people who were being exceptional in this business, then it became not really that big of a deal. I realized that this is always the case, that the top, how about this? The top 20% sell 80% of the properties. You mean 20% of the market sells 80% of the homes? Yep. And here's what's even crazy. I'll go to these big conferences at Century 21 and they'll be like, everyone working from their home and reducing square footage and doing all these different things. And I remember I stood up and I said, hey, let me ask you a question. I'm more interested in the 20% of the people who are selling 80%. And I was in front of like 5,000 people. I said, I'm more interested in the 20% that are selling 80%. You're worried about the 80% that sell only 20%. Because I want to treat this business like a business. So I choose to focus on the 20%, not only as a business owner, not only as an agent, but recognizing that that's where I need to put my focus is on the 20% of the people who are doing exceptionally well, who are selling 80% of the company's transactions or in the marketplace, not even just the company. Make sense? Okay, so I bring this up that you say, man, you're talking about all this. That seems really scary. It's not to be scary. It's to say, okay, I have to do two things. And I brought one word today and she brought the other, but you'll probably hear this tomorrow from Tony Robbins if you come and listen. You're going to hear these two words, innovate. Does innovate have two ends?
Yes.
I thought it did. I said I had two. I had two early today. I just want you to know
I
that.
saw you put the one big one over it.
I know. Then I'm like, maybe I'm wrong. Should you start writing stuff because now everything autofills for itself? All right. Okay. Innovate. And you guys have heard me talk about this. Look, when we made some major changes with Centerville and people thought we had lost our flipping minds, like, wow, could you? What have you done? Well, it was because all of a sudden I knew this. And this is all that has to happen. Did I spell that right, Kenzie? She's the grammarian in here. Did I do okay? Okay. All right. Okay. I had to anticipate. And Tyler, you don't know this. Maybe I've said this to you, but I'm so appreciative because, I kind of shook everyone's world up in Davis County. And I had even our own leaders going, what are you doing? Why are you doing what you're doing? Well, what are you doing? Well, the reason I did it is because just everything we just talked about, because I was anticipating that was going to happen. And what you have to be paying attention is, all right, I'm going to anticipate what the future looks like. Okay, now how am I going to innovate? So remember, I said the first rule for like what Robbins always talks about is business mastery is don't make things worse than they are or better than they are, just call them as they are. The second rule to that, write this down, is create the vision as you want it. Meaning, what do you see? So part of this innovation is there's a responsibility for you to see what you want it to look like. What you see. And what do you see? And then the third, because I may not come back to it, so you have it, he has these 3 rules, not worse than they are, not better than it is, or better than it is, or worse than it is. Number 2, create the vision, right, is what you want it to be. And number 3, go make it so. Go make it that. Go make it the way you want your life to be. And here's my observation. And I said this to Gretchen today, just before I came in here. I said, Gretchen, and this sounds like really a bold statement, Gretchen. I said it on Monday, but it is very little of my life that I have not gotten exactly what I desired. So here's the rule of thumb. Yesterday, I'm talking to my daughter, Ashley, or Jennifer's there. She's your daughter too, isn't she? Checking. Right? It's like the breakfast, right? Where there's ham and eggs on the table, and the eggs were involved. The pig was fully committed. Right? I was just involved in this creation. She was fully committed to the creation of Ashley. All right, but Ashley, right? Ashley is on this path wanting to be a cardiologist. She's been published 3 times. She's working up at the University of Utah. She's on this cardiology team. She talks to one of the PAs and says, hey, could I talk to one of these? Do you think I could talk to the only female cardiologist that's up there? And she said, and Dad and Mom, guess what I did? What did she say? I attracted this to me. I wanted to talk to this cardiologist because so many of them, of course, are so busy. They're completely inaccessible. And she said, I walk upstairs to the lunchroom, and guess who's sitting at a table eating lunch, and no one's there, and no one's in the room. She has her computer open, and she goes, I go over, she goes, excuse me, could I talk to you? Could I just take a moment? And she's like, sure. And now she's got this whole entire relationship with this, one of the only female cardiologists up at the U. And you think, well, wait a second. How does this all come together? How do you explain these things? Let me give you other examples. 3 years or 4 years, 4 years ago, or 5 years ago, this January, I had Danette Grant come to me and say, hey, George, what are your goals this year? And I got right up into her face and I pointed at her and I said, it was like this far. I said, I will find my birth mother. Now, what is ironic about that? I've been looking for 12 years, but I just want you to pay attention to something. I just want to tell you these quick stories, but this is key here. Know what you want. Here's the key. It's a critical component. Wrap all of your desire, emotion, passion, and everything you've got around what you want. And then number 3, execute. And if you want to finish the sentence, what I have, execute, because you know you're going to get it. And you say, that seems so simple. So I say, I'm going to find her. Well, here's what's ironic. Many of you were on that journey with me in finding her. I found her in August of that year. I found her. Then November, I finally got some interaction on 23andMe, and I had hired someone. And then again, I found more information by ironically in November back in New Jersey at a Tony Robbins event, right as it was starting. I get a text saying, we found her. Then by December, I had called her. She's deleting my message because she thought I was a robo-dialer. Because I didn't say, George Morris, your son. I just said, hey, George Morris, hey, I'm gonna be hopping on a plane. I was hoping you and I could touch bases. Hey, this isn't a sales call. She's like, well, I don't know a guy who'd be getting on a plane. He's got the wrong genie. Click. Right? And so all of a sudden, isn't it interesting? I clearly defined, I will find her. I had all my emotion wrapped up on it. And I fully executed. And guess what? I found her. I found her. And I realized, well, I better change my language. I better say, I would like to what? Meet her. I know I said like I should want to meet her sometime. And so I remember I started crafting what I wanted that to look like. And it is so beyond, some of you know this, it is so beyond my wildest expectations and my you know, the gift that she is to my life. And the fact is that, you know, I made the decision, of course, shortly after, I'm going to meet her. And on January 24th, I got a text that read, hey, I understand you're looking for me. I live in the Bay Area. I prayed for you my whole life. Celebrated your birthdays in my heart. I can almost have the text almost memorized. I've read it so many different times. And I hope to meet you. I know this is a lot of process, which you know I've been trying to get a hold of her for nearly 9 straight months. right? And so, or 6 months. And then about 3 weeks later, all of a sudden, the whole family went out and we met her and everybody else. And on February of that same year. And then now, a year or two later, she now lives, 5 minutes from here and 5 minutes from my house. And I talk to her every morning and night by text, and she's taking me to the airport today because she says that's the closest things that I got to taking you to school, and you go to the airport a lot. That's true. She's taking me to the airport, and that's her taking me to school. And my point is that I just want to point out to you, define what you want, wrap all your emotion into it, and trust. I wrote in a couple of you guys almost 2 years ago, a year and a half ago. I spoke to you what I've learned over my first 50 years. That you will get everything that you want, that you wrap your emotion around, and stop stressing about whether it's going to happen or not. What you should be stressing about is, have you gotten clear on how many deals you're going to do? Have you gotten clear on how much money you're going to earn? Have you gotten clear on what that money means to you? Because the meaning is the reasons and the emotions that wrap around it. And the challenge is that when we say, well, I don't know what this market's going to do. And if your language is, I don't know what's going to happen, I'm not sure. And by the way, in some of these stats, what if I'm completely wrong? It's irrelevant what's happening over there. People say, well, why am I paying attention to that? Because I know the majority of humanity doesn't operate this way. They don't know what they want, and they wrap their emotion all around the fear of what's happening, versus the emotion is wrapped up all around their goal, their dreams, and their desires. And I just want to give you perspective, because I know that each one of you in here could look back in your life and go, wow, that's what I wanted. That's what I got. That's where I'm going. Now I'm just going to call my shot here. Let's just talk about an Ashley for a minute. Ashley's goal and objective and her obsession is to get into the 98th percentile of the MCAT. She has a 3.7 in physiological sciences. I didn't even know what that meant until she graduated, just for the record. I'm not kidding you. I started looking it up, and it's the hardest degree you can possibly get, next to aerospace engineering at UCLA. She got a 3.7, and it says a 3.7 is the equivalent of a 4.0. She wants 98% on the MCAT. She has been published 3 different times. She wanted to meet a cardiologist, and all of her emotion, everything is wrapped around that. So the question I'll put out to you, if all remains healthy and strong, I will bet you that somewhere in the next 12 to 18 months, I will report back to you that she's going to either Harvard, she's going to Columbia, she's going to Stanford, because I know that's what she wants. And all of her emotion is wrapped around that. And once you begin to figure out that there is nothing in this world you can't get, and if you wrap your emotion around it and you begin to execute and trust towards it, here's the problem. Most people will be like, okay, this is what I'm gonna get. Oh my gosh, but I gotta be stressed the whole time. I mean, what about the market? What if it doesn't work? What if it doesn't happen? What if I don't make a call? What if I don't make an appointment? What if I don't get the listing? How do you just took a step back and said, I know what I'm gonna get, and I know why I'm gonna get it, and I know all the emotion and the power behind it, and I'm gonna trust that it's going to work. And I'm going to speak to the trust of whether it's your team, your business, your family, your health, whatever it is that you wrap your emotion around and you execute upon, you will get. The challenge is so few people ultimately choose what they want. They don't even really know why they want it, and then they never really execute towards it. And so when we look at that top 20% of those people, we go, look at them. Look at how amazing. Are they so amazing? Not really. And that means whoa, well, hold on. No, because everyone could do it. But it's ordinary people. Maybe something you might want to write down. It's ordinary people doing ordinary things consistently that makes them extraordinary. Ordinary people doing ordinary things consistently with power, passion, emotion. Execute, get it all. And so we look at them going, but if you're wrapped up in the fear and not in the emotion, or worse yet, if you're wrapped up in, like Tyler came in and looked at the schedule, Isaac, that I was showing you on Saturday and said, this is the pathway to $1 million. Here it is. Most people, when they see that, they go, oh gosh, I don't want to do that, but I want $1 million. Oh, you mean you want $1 million or more, but you don't have to execute to get it? Well, good luck. I hope that works out. Because I really believe not necessarily in the law of attraction as much as I believe in the law of action. Get my mind right, get my heart right, get my actions right, and everything I desire comes my way. As I can show you over and over again. I said within 2 years, speaking of Leah Kruger again, same lunch, by the way. No, not the same lunch, because that was at Marie Callender's, which is not there anymore. About the #1 agent, Leah Kruger. She was she was the manager of the Union Heights office over in Coldwell. And I was sitting with her, and we were over. Actually, that was the first story was actually at Marie Callender's. This story is actually at Corner Bakery, just for the truth monitors. All right, I'll tell you. Okay, I'm remembering, but as I'm sitting there, I said, hey, I understand that you're trying to get the LDS Church account from the church, and Coldwell Banker's had it for 13 years. I mean, and I'll never forget where she goes. She said, just like, there's no way that they would ever leave Big Blue. I'm like, oh, really? I said, yeah. Just so you know, 2 days later, we were awarded the contract. And I still will never forget, the sun set. I was, of course, breaking every FAA law, had my phone still on in the plane. It still made it, weirdly, and it didn't crash. And my phone was, and it came up right as the sun was setting. And of course, I looked at it because it was such a defining moment of just our company. And I had tears in my eyes. And then I remember I landed and I got a text from Leah that said, you knew you already had it when I said you'd never get it, didn't you? ? And I said, yes, I did. And she's like, you just let me run basically my message about, like, yeah, I did. And it was so good, Leah, because Leah's, she's one of my favorite people on earth. She's such an amazing human being. And she goes, you just absolutely let me just hook, line, and sinker. Yeah, I did. And here's the thing, let me tell you this. I made a commitment that I would have the church account within 2 years. And I got it in 9 months. And I just want to point something out. Again, I go back to just think in your life of something that you said, I will get this. Maybe as you got the girl, maybe you got the relationship, maybe you got the boy, maybe you got the test and you passed, or you got the deal. And I'm gonna tell you, all of these moments of your life, when you get clear on what you want and you wrap all the emotion around it, like every moment is wrapped around your obsession. Like Napoleon Hill says, what did he say? A white what? A white hot obsession. Well, if you don't feel that way towards selling a lot of real estate, then you're just going to be casual about it. You're going to be like, well, I tried. Check. I prospected my 2 hours today. Check. Did it. But not with passion, not with energy, not an obsession. So why I believe that Everest as an organization is such a cool place to be, because people are obsessed here. Like obsessed. You don't come in at 6:45 in the morning like she does and Rick does and others. And some of you who come here, like you guys, right? And others, and Greg and others, you do that because you're obsessed. And so you do things differently when you're obsessed. People say, well, you don't want to burn out. No, you only burn out when you don't have an obsession. When you get anxious, depressed, and disconnected from your goals and your dreams, and you live in a state of fear and anxiety because you got disconnected emotionally to what you ultimately wanted. But when you get clear on what you want and you wrap it up with all this emotion, passion, obsession, the white hot obsession that Napoleon Hill talks about in his book, Think and Grow Rich, and you start going down the path of executing and you trust it's going to work, you will find a way. This universe is built to give you everything you desire. So if you don't get clear on what you want in markets that are going like this and thinking, well, I'll just whatever. If you don't get real clear about your innovation and your anticipation, there's going to be major problems. So my obsession to figuring out what to anticipate is critical for my protection, for Ruby's protection, for Kenzie's, for you, for all of us. There's a great stewardship. I have a passion for it. So people say, well, how do you know all that? Because I'm obsessed, because at 2:49 a.m. this morning, I'm sending out texts to my senior team going, pay attention to this. And then at 7:30 this morning, I get a call from Gretchen going, I just want to make sure, are you okay? Obsessed, I'm great. Tired, but obsessed. And so just ask yourself, how obsessed are you? How committed are you? How driven are you? How important is that you get what you want? And some of you are falling back into patterns of poverty, no money, check to check. And those patterns come because you forgot that you have to be obsessed on where you're going. You have to execute on where you're going. And if you forget that, then you're going to fail and you're going to be miserable and you're going to be anxious, fearful, scared. What's the market doing? Should I get a different job? Should I go do something different? Because you're sitting there questioning every single moment. And to live in that much uncertainty when this much uncertainty is happening with the market, and then you're uncertain on where you're going, what you're passionate about, and how you're executing. Oh man, buckle up, because you are in for a ride of your life to losing everything, because that's how it works, especially in a sales career. And you don't have to be that person. If you really pay attention, you don't have to be that person. You get to be the person who says, I know what I want, and I absolutely know why I want it. And I will not allow anything to stop me. In fact, how do you know someone's committed? How do you know? How do you know? Did I put too many T's in there? Is that right?
It's good.
All right, just checking. All right. Commitment only has one T. Committed has two. You might say, did this guy ever barely graduate? But why no? I was the fourth child and the first. I mean, most people say, so proud of you, you're your first college graduate. I was the fourth child in my family, and guess what I was? I was the first high school graduate. I take that as a compliment. Most people don't think much of that. I think that's great. I'm just kidding, right? All right, so well, how do you know you're committed? Just think about that. All right, what? Yeah, who said that? Greg, you've been around me too long, right? But hopefully not too long, but a lot, right? But just remember, you know you're committed when you're highly disciplined and you're highly creative. Because when you're creative, the only rules I ever put around my creativity is honest, moral, and ethical. Beyond that, nothing will stop me from what I want. I don't care how long I work. I don't care how long it takes. I don't care what I have to do. As long as moral, ethical, and honest, I will get what I want. And that's the problem, is some of you are settling in on things you don't even know what you want. You're more focused on how bad the market is, going, but what do I want? And when I know what I want, then all that passion, that energy, that obsession moves me. And then I become an attraction to the people I'm with. Because do you think someone wants to show up and work with someone who's like, well, I don't know what this is going to do. You should know. You know what it's going to do. It's going to get worse. So buckle up. Let's go. I'm here to help you. Instead of walking around like a sheep and a mouse and withering away and hoping that it works out. That's not leadership. That's the sheep. Lead and lead your own life. If you lead in your own life, you'll be able to lead others, because people want to be led with people who know where they're going. And if you don't know where you're going, hey, I don't know where I'm going, but hey, I'd like to take you somewhere. Where do you want to go? Yeah, you kind of look so uncertain. I can feel the vibe, the energy. The energy is so uncertain that I'm like, I don't know. But remember, they will choose to work with you as a buyer or seller because you display the most amount of certainty. They choose the relationship that is most certain because it's all about the choice based on safety. And if I feel safer with you versus the other person, even though you might be just a great person, they're going to choose the person that is most certain, because that's where they feel safest, most secure, and where they know their future is. If they're going to hand it over to someone, their most important, most lucrative asset of their life, well, I'd want to go with the person who most believes it. Okay. Any thoughts or comments?
One thing
Yeah.
earlier, when you're talking about focusing your time on the 20%, I was thinking that may like sound like you're being mean or something to the 80%. And I thought, but you can choose to be in the 20%.
Yeah.
So we have the choice to be in that 20%. We have the choice to be in the focus.
You do. You do. I have two comments to that, John. Just hold on. Don't be mad at me if you're in this room, but I have three things I'm going to require of you. There are 100 agents in this company that have not sold a home all year. We say, how's that even possible? I don't know. We're going to find out. I don't know how it's possible either. But I was one point, now, if you've been in this business less than 90 days, that does not apply to you. But you're gonna have a little sit down with the Rubies, the Georges, the Johns and others. They're gonna say you have three choices. You can show up at every morning meeting for 4 out of 5 days a week. You can show up at the summits and you can show up at coaching. And then, or three, if you don't make 150 contacts a week, that is our belief that you are resigning. So we don't want you here because you are polluting the environment. So just know that I'm not, the commitment to cleaning up this company right now, and people say, well, what's with all the energy? Because I can never begin to explain to you what it took to right size, to modify, to clean up, to refine California. I could show you pictures of me. I look like I'm a new babe out of the womb in youthfulness. I have more gray hair and aging that has gone on in relationship to this than I could ever even begin to tell you. And if they're here, get them in here. Are they here?
Yes.
Then get there in here. Thank you. That's awesome. Sorry, yes, there's some people I'm meeting with. They should be in here. They should be in here for the last hour of it also. I know you guys see who these people are. You know who they are. You know who they are. You know who they are. Okay. But I just want to point out a couple of things. So California, talking about things I wanted. 3 years ago, someone told me, you need to sell California within the year. I said, no, it's not right yet. We haven't right sized it and cleaned it all up. 3 years. 3 years. And John, it's not a secret. I'll tell you who it was. I was telling Tom Lloyd, Gretchen Smoot, Jennifer. I don't get it. Matter anyone who wanted to listen and talk about California. That's what Sam. It was 3 years. Remember that conversation, Sam? Said it'll take 3 years, and everyone's like, no, it needs to be 1 year. Not you, but others were saying that, right?
Yes, I don't know what we're talking about.
That's it. We're talking about the sale of California. 3 years ago, we said we're going to sell it. I said it'll take 3 years. Everybody said, no. It needs to be 1 year. I'm like, it will not be. So you're like, I've heard that are like, oh my gosh, what's the, like, is that is one of the best things that's ever happened for me, in the sense of not the fact that I don't have such great care, love, and concern for these individuals. It's this, is that even though I have a minority ownership there in California, the reality is what it allows me to do is to spend more time here. And I have 3 objectives: to simplify my life, to make sure I'm more profitable, and to make sure every leverage is out of my life. If there's any advice I could give you, I keep reiterating it to get your house in order: simplify, increase your profitability, decrease your liabilities, in simple form. And about, I don't know, a year or so ago, I thought about that. And 3 years ago, I said, I'm going to make sure California is taken care of, get it right sized, and do what it needs to be doing. So some of you are thinking, like, is it a market issue that I sold California? No, weirdly, I don't even know how we could have gotten more money for the company than we did. I feel so blessed and so fortunate for what we did. I mean, is that a fair statement, Sam? Like one might say divine intervention, the way it all came together, it was incredible. 39 days from the moment that I sat down with the person to the contract signed and sealed and done. You know how long it took to buy California before that? It took 1 year and 1 month, 13 months, and a 100-page contract. 39 days, 6 pages. That's my point. That's the stuff that you do when things are going the right direction. They're not coming in?
He's coming.
All right.
Pulled into the parking lot, so.
Oh, well, okay. It's just Alan and Fernando. And I say just because I'm giving them a hard time. They should be in here anyway. All right. So my point is just I go back to, like, California got what I wanted. You say, well, George, are you saying it's all about? No, it's not about me. It's about you. And I'm not trying to impress anything to you. I'm just trying to impress upon you that whatever you desire, if the universe is built to give you everything you desire, right, is the combination of wants and emotion and passion. Passion is even a balance between anger and love. Kind of interesting. And if you have passion and energy and drive and desire towards whatever you choose, whatever that number is, whatever those income goals are, whatever you want, stop paying attention to how hard and how crazy this is, because you've missed a step. Know what you want, wrap your emotion around, and execute to the utmost ability, and you'll have it all. It doesn't matter how old you are. It doesn't matter whether you're 20 years old or 2,500 years old. I don't care. Right? I don't know. Are you one of the aliens that's trying to figure out how to sell real estate? I don't know. All right, we'll wrap up here, guys.
I don't know the motivational speaker, very prolific, African Americans. He said, how is none of your business, and it goes towards.
Les Brown.
Yeah, Les Brown.
Yeah, how is none of your business? Decide what you want, commit to it, right? And then you have Gerda who says, once one is committed, providence takes over, meaning God, the universe, source, Father, whatever you want, Allah, whatever
Right.
takes over. And things begin to align themselves in alignment with what you want your life to be.
So people burn out when they're worried about how, but if they focus on why, then
There is no burnout because those are the reasons, right?
the people that know how always work for those that know why.
Yeah. There you go. It's good. I like it. Anybody else? Another hand, I thought. Okay. Guys. Be aware of the market. Don't make it better or worse than it is. Cast your vision. Know what you're trying to accomplish and then execute. And I've only given you examples to show you certain things. Not because I'm any better or worse than you. It's just the fact that I know that you can do this. Everest was created in a little culture video I did years ago that was committed. And I just have been thinking, I said this to the guys at Spiro. And frankly, I got a little choked up because it was going down memory lane of all the little miracles that have happened to create Everest. All the many people who said, it's not going to make it. It's not going to happen. You're not going to be able to do what you say you're going to do. And here's the beauty of the Les Brown statement, by the way. If you believe that's right, that is right. If it's not going to be for you, you'll be 100% right on whatever language and belief that you have. But if you believe that you can participate, prospect, and do the things that are necessary in this business, you don't have anything to fear. But if your emotion and your energy is on the tragedies and the challenges of this market, then that's where all your emotion will go. And what will happen is more and more bad things will probably happen in your world. But if your emotion and passion is wrapped around what you want, everything that you desire will come true. Whether that's the right relationship, whether that's the right partnership, whether that's the right business model, the right amount of money, but you have to get clear and stop worrying about what you have to do to get it. The best example is always for me, the gym. People focus on that gym, how much it's going to be to like weight lift and do this and to do that. But just remember, they focus on the pain of the moment versus how much better, how many people feel better after they've been to the gym? And how many of us like struggle to say how bad will it be while I'm at the gym? That's the thing that's so crazy. We focus on what's the pain of the moment versus the beauty and the joy of the future. And if you can do that, you can have it all. Hey guys, great to be with you. Have an extraordinary rest of the week. Finish strong. Finish strong. Okay. Thanks, Eric.